Hello, FlossTube Stitchers. Shelly here at Just Stitching Inc. in Strongsville, Ohio, sitting in front of another one of our notions areas. So behind me you can see beads, buttons, charms, treasures from about half a dozen different companies. And then we have a spin rack of other accessories. And one of the things that is displayed there are thread storage systems. And one that you may not be aware of is thread tucks. So this is $8 for a 100 pack. I think they used to come in 6 colors, but now there's only 3 different colors available. But the fun thing about using the colors is that you could save one for your cotton threads, one for your silks, one for your metallics, or if you're a colorful person, you can just mix them all up on the same ring. So what's really nice about this system is that there's an extra hole punched about an inch away from where it would go on your metal ring. And you can pull the thread out of that second hole without removing it from the ring. So then you could just cut the length that you want to stitch with and keep going. The other thing is, hello, it's the same size and shape as a skein, so it kind of makes sense. You can leave the label on, or you can label right on the tucks part of the bag. Then we have a lot of different needles, and sometimes people forget what they're using or can't figure out the size. And so we have this set of ID cards that comes in a cute little case from Access Commodities, where there's information about the type of needle on the back, and then on the front there's a life-size representation of the size, shape, and length of the needle, especially the eye, because that's important if you're putting different size threads in it. And included in each case is a card for betweens, chenille, crewel, milliners, sharps, and of course what we use most, tapestry. So it's $10 for the set. That makes a really nice gift for a stitchy friend. So we carry those, and one of you is going to get this as our giveaway for this week. And what I want you to do is tell me if you have a favorite brand of needle. We carry a lot of different styles and are getting a couple new ones. We already carry Peacemakers, which is my favorite needle, but we can't get it in petites. I don't know if they don't make it or if the US just doesn't import them. So we have to carry John James for the petites. Then we have Bowen from France. Most of the needles are from England, but Bowen is from France. And then we carry the Pat Carson needles, which are beautiful and smooth and have such a smooth eye. The fun thing about them is the eye is gold and the rest of the shaft is the stainless color. And for some reason, they're easier to find if you drop them, plus the fact that they're really smooth in the eye. So she has them made for her. So just tell me in the comments what your favorite brand is. And if you name something that I don't have, I'll look into it. We are going to get the ballpoint needles really soon, and so I'm waiting for my first order of those. And then I also found out that one of my other thread distributors is going to be carrying the tulip needles from Japan, I think. And so I like to have a wide variety of products. Stitchers are different. We all have different taste, different issues, different preferences, different experiences with stitching. And so I like to carry a wide variety. All right, and then speaking of the beads behind me, we carry something called Bead Buddies from the Meredith collection, and it's a little plastic box that has a magnet on the back of the box and then a magnet separate so that you can use this on your fabric if you have it in it works better if you have it in a hoop, a Q-snap, or some kind of scroll bar system. And there's a lid on it that comes off easily. And the material inside the box is a little sticky or tacky. So it's for beads. So you can keep this box right on your stitching project and take the beads right out of the box instead of having them on the table. They're not as easily going to be knocked over or spilled, or you don't have to reach as far, so it's very convenient. And then this is another fun product that's really popular, but that there are still stitchers that don't know about it. It's called the Star Detailer. You'll remember because it has a star on the end. And it's made by CompuStitch, and as far as I know, this is the only stitching related thing they make. I'm not even sure what kind of company they are, but we've been carrying them for years, and we get a couple dozen every time we order since it's the only thing we get from them. Comes with instructions if you forget how to use it. But what you're basically doing is taking the long shaft part of the threader, and you're putting it through your stitches on the back of your work in the opposite direction of how you want to end your thread. So it's for those really short strands where you just want to finish that row and you end up with this really itty bitty short piece that you can't thread in the eye of a needle. So that's where this comes in handy. So you push this through and then you tuck the tail in between, you know, the bigger area of the metal, and it eventually gets carried down into this twisted part, and that's what holds it in place while you're pulling it through. So this is a great tool, only $5. And let's see, I think those are all the notions I have to show you. I said that July was going to be Christmas in July when I got back to stitching, and I didn't accomplish as much as I wanted to due to other issues. But one of my Stitch Mania projects that I did finish was Santa's Reindeer from Bent Creek. It's one of their zipper kits, so it comes with the 18 count raw linen and all the pearl cotton that goes with it, and so that's the finished product. It showed a peppermint button on the end of Santa's hat, and I didn't care for the scale of it. Instead, I decided to put a little more texture in the piece. The mustache is textured, and so I thought I would do a modified Rhodes stitch to create a little pom-pom at the end of his hat. So I just Googled Rhodes stitch, and I found a couple that showed round ones. I had to adjust the number of holes I was using because of the space I had. But anyway, I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. And then the other thing that I could almost call it finished now, but I'll explain that in a minute. I had started the 2018 Prairie Schooler Santa a couple months ago. I want to hold the fabric back so you can kind of see what it is, because when I hold it up close, I think it might wash out a little bit. But it's 28 count Crystal Ale from Picture This Plus. And I substituted Weeks Dye Works for the DMC. Nothing wrong with the original DMC colors. I've done other Prairie Schooler Santas in them, but I just felt like trying something new. And then I used Anchor White for the snowman. So my substitutes were Lancaster Red, Onyx, the two greens are Verdigris and Seaweed, and the little bunny is Pamlico. I thought about doing the bunny in something that was fuzzy, but I really wanted the sparkle in the fabric to show, and I didn't want to have competing textures, so I'll maybe do that on another one. I'm not sure how I'm going to finish it, but I had a piece of Crystal Ale that could be cut in half to do two, and the 2016 Santa is also one of my favorites because it has a reindeer, and I do a lot of decorating with reindeer and snowmen throughout the winter. As you might remember, we're in Northeast Ohio, and we have very long winters, and so I tend to leave up reindeer and snowmen sometimes through March, depending on when Easter comes around. So I thought those would be two that would be good together. But the other thing I thought of is that she's done Santas that face each other. So I thought maybe I could do three of them, and this could be on that side, and the reindeer could be in the center because that Santa is facing forward, and then the one on this side could be a Santa facing this way. So I'll have to go through the other Santas and see if something else strikes me that would work. And of course, it will only work if the next piece of crystal ale I get matches close enough. So it should, but you never know. So I'm not tied to that idea. Oh, the other thing I did was I wanted his nose to look a little more rustic, and I thought about using a button, but I didn't. So I just put a few overlapping long stitches on top of the X's to kind of represent a little gnarled carrot, like the funny ones that come out of the garden, not the grocery store, but your own garden. So I did that, and then the reason I say that it's not really finished is, so I started the back stitching part with the branches that Santa is going to use for the snowman's arms, and I didn't like it in one strand, so I did it in two, and I really liked the way it looked. Well, then when I stitched the back stitch or the border and then the back stitch lettering, I also did that in two, and I didn't like it. So I took it all out. It was so hard to take out, especially I didn't want my needle to catch any of those sparkly fibers in the fabric, but I had to keep clipping it and taking out short sections because I had stitched with one strand and went over each one twice, and so that was a little more complicated to take out. So what do you think? Do you think I should just leave? The branches don't have to match the lettering, right? Don't you think I could leave the branches with two strands? Say yes, because I don't want to take it out and redo it. Anyway, and then I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the difference between doing a running stitch and doing a back stitch. So when I did the outline for this, I don't know if you can see, but it's every other stitch. And so a running stitch seems to make sense. That would be a running stitch. That made sense, but when you're only using one strand of embroidery floss, to my eye, to my picky eye, I felt like the thread was kind of curving a little bit, and so I decided to do a back stitch instead. And I wanted to show you with 25 count Lugana and some number 5 pearl cotton. This is actually watercolors, but I stripped it down to the number 5. But unfortunately, it doesn't make my point because it looks identical both ways. So it doesn't really make my point. But I thought I could still show you that if you're doing a back stitch, there's a way of avoiding the thread on the back so that you don't catch it. All right, so here I'm going to do, so now I've skipped, I'm doing over 4. So I skipped my 8 stitches because I'm going to come back and do 4, and that's going to make the stitch. So here I am coming back over my 4 stitches, or over 2 if you were working on a regular piece of linen. And I take my finger, I take my finger and I just scoop that thread out of the way so that, can you see that the needle is coming up on the side of the thread? Now the important thing when you're doing a back stitch like this is to make sure that your needle comes up on the same side of that thread each time, and then you won't have a wonky stitch. So it takes a little bit more thread, but in my case, when I was using the 1 strand on the 28 count linen, I just didn't like the way it worked with a running stitch, so I chose to do this back stitch. So there it is again. I'm putting my needle in the right hole and I'm scooching that stitch over so that the needle is on that side of it. So anyway, that's that. And then for the rest of the July finishes I'm going to show, well, 2 of them are from a customer named Marlene. Amy Brecken's Holly Jolly all year long as individual pieces so that she could, I think her original idea was to give them to one of her daughters to put on their desk at work. But she did them individually and had the framer put them in a frame with turn buttons on the back. So I wanted to show you what that looked like. I know we've talked about it before. The framer put screw eyes and wire on the back so that she would have a choice of whether to put it on an easel or hang it on the wall. And then she just put one turn button on each side. You take a Phillips head screwdriver, I think, and just loosen it a little bit, move them to the side, pop out the extra piece of foam core that's put in there to fill in the space, and then she can change them out each month. So for example, this is the September one, and there it's all stretched and ready to go, and then she just pops that in. The other one that I have to show you from Marlene is the tiny Modernist, one of the Christmas houses, and this is actually called Santa's house. I think the first Sal for the Christmas was an outdoor scene, and so that's Santa's house. To me, from the Picture This Plus sample book, it looks like either mint or Vesper, but I'm not sure. And this is how it comes. The one big chart you start with the border, and then the rooms are all filled in later. So that's what people started with, and they didn't know what the house was going to look like. And then these were the little cards that came out one at a time after that. So it's kind of fun. Some people like to wait until it's finished so they can really see what it looks like before they buy it, and other people like to be surprised as they stitch along. Then the last thing I'm going to show is another one of my Christmas stitching from a few years ago. This is one of the two designs in JBW's Red Mitten Collection 1. And I knew I wanted it in a mitten shape, but I wasn't really sure how I was going to finish it. And I had sent it to Rita at Snowberry Needle Arts, and she surprised me with this, with the layers of felt and the stitches holding the felt together and the French knots, and then she's got a piece of twisty raffia, and she kind of made it into a pocket. It's permanent. Those don't come out, but it's kind of like a pocket, and the little rusty bells, and I just loved it. I would never have come up with that on my own. So I did want to mention that this book is out of print. You might be lucky enough to find it if you check your local store or check some online shops, but it is considered out of print by Judy Whitman. I still have 5 copies left, so if you're interested, it's $6 for the two designs. The easiest way to order it would actually be to tell me in the comments that you want it, because I do read those comments. Okay, I think I've come to the end, and now we're going to talk about the giveaway from last week. So I'm going to do the 6 emery boards that were new products last week, 2 of each of the 3 floral designs, and I let the random number generator pick a name, and it picked Jody Shell. Yeah, Jody Shell. So Jody, contact me and I'll get those out to you, and hopefully you'll have some stitching buddies you can share those with. And then I wanted to read something that one of the stitchers wrote in the comments. Sorry, I'm gonna have to hold this kind of close to see it. I tried to make it bigger and then take a screenshot of it, and you know how that goes with technology. So this was from Linda Schindhelm. I just love this story behind this, and I thought you would enjoy hearing it. Linda says, I've been getting together with the same group of friends to stitch since 1983. Yes, you heard me right. We started as a group of 6, bonded together by our love of cross stitch. We all used DMC back then, so named ourselves the Loose Ends because we were 6 separate strands held together in one skein. Isn't that a lovely image? We meet monthly and rotate hosting in our homes. We have been through a lot of living and changes over the years, and our friendship and monthly meetings sustain us. In 1983, we all lived in the same city, so travel was never an issue. We now still live in the same state, but only one of us is in her original house. The furthest home we travel to is over 3 hours away, but we make it work. That means there are some overnight visits involved. We look forward to our meetings and wouldn't have it any other way unless we get too old to drive, and then we joke that our kids can chauffeur us. We are truly dedicated cross-stitchers. I thought that was an amazing story. So I guess that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and have a great week, everyone.